So you all know we have a lot of champions in Baltimore. Did y'all know that? Well, we have a lot of champions in Baltimore. And so this morning I wanted to introduce you to our chess champions. Give them a big round of applause. And so I'm going to, let me see, we're going to give citations to everybody, some medals, and of course the mayor's pen. And let me see, we're going to save you for last. Brandon, right?
Yeah. Brandon
DeAndre. Yay. I love that team spirit. Ethan Riley. Ethan. Look at little Lucy. Look at Lucy. Lucy's a chess champion too. Sawyer Ross. Thank you. And our coach. Coach.
Thank you.
Coach. And then to our principal. Over here. You all met him before. Okay. And then Kyrie Myrick. So let me just tell you, I'm really proud to announce our chess champions. They are from the Roland Park Middle School. They outwitted 249 other players in the K through 8 division at the recently concluded Super, not just champions, these are Super National Tournament of the United States Chess Federation. So we can send them abroad. They can represent us internationally as well. Not only that, but the entire Roland Park team came in 13th place in a field of 44 teams, which is also outstanding. The team members I just introduced you to, the City of Baltimore wants you to know that we are really proud of your accomplishments and encourage you to keep up the good work. And let's, of course, not forget our great coach and the school principal, Nicholas D'Ambrosio, who was here just a few weeks ago to stand up with, he is our Teacher of the Year. You must be doing some really great things over there at Roland Park. So let me announce first I'll give out the pins, and these are to our runner-ups who participated. Brendan. Did I say that right, Brendan? Am I saying it right?
Thank you.
Brendan. Ethan Riley. Ethan. Okay. Lucy. Girl power. Lucy. Girl power for Lucy. And then for Sawyer. Thank you. And for our coach. Thank you as well. And our principal as well. But the big medal goes to our champion, who defeated 249 other folks. Did you want to say anything on behalf of the team? Come to the mic.
Thank you. This has been a big opportunity. I'd just like to thank my family and friends, and especially my coaches for teaching me a lot of things that I know, and my friends for just helping me practice and just playing games with me to get through everything, and just everyone who believed in me and were confident in that I could do it.
Yay! Any questions? Any questions of our young people?
Full name?
My name is Kyrie Myrick.
You can spell it for us.
CAHREEMYRICK.
And you are what grade?
7th.
At Roland Park.
Elementary, middle school.
Okay. And tell me what did you win?
I won 7 out of my 7 games at the National Chess Tournament.
So did you win anything, big trophies?
Yeah, I won a first place trophy.
Excellent.
Excellent, excellent. And Lucy, how long you been playing?
2 years.
2 years. And Lucy is in the 4th grade. Sawyer's also in the 4th grade. And Ethan and Brendan are both in the 7th grade as well. So y'all are real. How long you been playing?
About 5 years.
5 years?
3.
3 years?
7 years.
7 years. Wow, wait a minute. 7 years. Wait a minute. Okay.
I learned how to play when I was 3, then I started playing tournaments last year.
3 years old when she first started. And so how?
I was 3. I started tournaments when I was 5.
Wow. So, Mr. Champion, how old were you when you first started?
Around 5.
So you've been at it for about 2 years?
About 7.
Oh, that's right, 7th grade. All right. I'm usually pretty good at math. All right. So congratulations. Big round of applause for all of you. Thank you. Wear your medals well. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Principal. Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you. Thank you, Lucy. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. Bye. All righty. Thank you all.
Those are some beautiful children.
Aren't they great? So we also have a wrestling champion that we hope to get here soon as he gets back into Baltimore to celebrate his championship as well. Okay, open for questions.
Mayor, I wanted to ask about the homicide rate. So as of last night, it was up 82% from 2014 at 144. What do you think about where we are and what we need to do?
Well, let me just say that it's up in most urban cities around the nation. As I mentioned last week, we're working very closely with our police department. Our commissioner has called on additional assistance. We also are, as I mentioned to you all probably really earlier, we're part of the Bloomberg Philanthropies group, and our innovation team, we're trying to pull them together. We'll bring in experts from around the country to focus on different areas of concern, and our first focus is going to be on crime, looking at best practices around the nation, which we are doing. But sometimes I think it's important to bring in other minds to sort of help you kind of focus on this issue. So their first area of focus is going to be on crime. We hope to get the director on board in about 2 more weeks. I'm concluding so many interviews. As you well know, our Parks and Recreation person has been selected, should be here around the 1st of July. We've just concluded HABC and HCD, so those are about to be put in place. We're at our final interviews with our transportation folks, so just a lot of interviews that are taking place. But this innovation team, I think, is going to be really good for Baltimore because they will focus specifically. We've asked them specifically to focus on crime as our #1 concern.
So what would you say to the families who've been affected by this, and also the people that are living in some of these communities which are having record homicides?
Yeah, and well, not just record homicides. I mean, I think our homicide, if you look at over the last few weeks, the police department has shifted more folks toward the weekend because we noticed that there was a spike on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. In the last 2 weeks, just the last few weeks, you've seen just a drop. Our police officers have to be out there in the community, have to be out there in the neighborhoods, have to be on top of that. And, you know, there's conversations around safe streets. Thank you for the report, Jane. And one of the things I've said to the philanthropic community, you know, we need, you know, the city can't do all of this by itself, and we need assistance. As you all know, we're going through a budget issues right now, working with the council. But I think this is a time that we all need to pull together. So I am bringing together, I had this conversation with our health director on yesterday, I think I'm at the state, on yesterday, that we've got to pull together the resources. And oftentimes we create this program, understand Safe Streets was created in 2007. So we're 10 years into Safe Streets, and the murder rate is still up. And so, but there is evidence that in certain areas they kept the murder rate down and crime down. So I think it does have some value, so we're working on that. And then, you know, I'm going to do everything I can as it relates to finding some other dollars outside of city government to make sure that we're funding some of these things that are really important to the city. I also think that with the cameras and so forth that are coming online, not that we're using it as a revenue stream, but, you know, it gives us an opportunity to look at some other things that we need to prioritize, especially around safe streets and communities. You will also notice probably within the next month or so more lights going up around the city. It is really important. I've walked through certain neighborhoods, even my own, where it's just dark. And we've got to create brighter environments in our communities throughout the city. And so we're working on that as
Mayor,
well.
you said you want to shift resources from policing and other programs, but Donald Pride of Baltimore Sun reported that the head of the Greater Baltimore Committee told the council not to do that.
Well,
What do you say to that?
no. Let me be clear, because I wasn't there what Donald Fry said.
No, I understand that.
Okay, but let me be clear in terms of where our priorities are.
Okay.
What I said was that we would make every effort to put more money into schools and our parks and recreation programs. We've done that. I went out and raised over $3 million just with the private sector to fund 92 youth after-school programs. $18 million of private money so that 12,500 young people can work this summer. And we put additional dollars in the schools. I, as you well know, worked very closely with the General Assembly and the governor to make a case for providing additional dollars for our public school system. $182 million committed over the next 3 years. And at the same time, and as I pointed out to you all before, the city has a $2.8 billion operating budget. The school system has a $1.4 billion operating budget. I think to continue to ask the city to stretch, and education is a priority. After school programs are a priority. We're keeping libraries open later. We've opened up the 2 youth centers this summer. I think, as I've said to the philanthropic community, I don't have a problem asking. Until we get this city on the right track financially, we got to make sure that we meet everybody's needs. Nobody wants trash not to be picked up in their neighborhoods and their communities. Nobody wants the parks to look unclean. I mean, all of these things we have to take care of. So I'm prioritizing that. I think this is not the time. We've got more police officers in our academy now than we've had in years, and we need them on the streets in our city. And so we just put 38 new officers on the street as a result of this last graduating class, and we got another 40-something that I intend to get on the streets of our city. We need police presence on our streets, and I'm not holding back on that.
And what about the money for after-school funding? I've been in talks with the city council on it, and they're asking to put that money back into after-school.
I'm not sure what they're talking about, because they've got a $12 million youth fund.
Right.
Let me think. Yeah, but I raised. You didn't hear me. I raised $3 million in private dollars to fund after-school programs that funded 92 programs. You can go back and check. I took money out, $3 million funded 92 after-school programs. If we need to give you that additional information, we'll be glad to give it to you. But the Family League I've cut because we give that money, the city gives that money to the Family League. And what I'm trying to do is gain more control of the city's dollars so that we can make sure that the dollars are going to communities and neighborhoods that are heretofore have been neglected. And we will make sure of that. But you have to remember that the city council has a $12 million youth fund, and they need to exercise the use of it.
Have you spoken to the leadership of the GBC about, because the perception
Right.
is that they are very publicly saying, don't cut policing, which is what the letter says. They acknowledge that, yeah, you need.
Oh, I'm sure.
et cetera.
I'm sure that's what this.
But that seems to be that it's a private entity, that may be a way to get Safe Streets money.
Well, that's what I'm with you on that, Jane. And I said the same thing to every time somebody tugs me or walks by me from the philanthropic community or the business community. You think these programs are great? Help us fund them. I've met with presidents of colleges and universities who've said that they're willing to chip in, but I'm pretty certain that we will get the funding for Safe Streets.
Mayor, the African American Festival, we've gotten a couple of calls asking if it's happening this year.
It is.
It is?
It is. In fact, we'll probably bring you something next week on the African American Heritage Festival. It's coming back. One of the things, I love all of the festivals that we celebrate throughout the city. The city put an awful lot of money into the African American Heritage Festival, and the city can't afford to do that, and B, a 2-day event just got to be too expensive for the city. And so it is an important festival for us, and so we do have volunteers who will work on making sure the festival takes place. We're bringing it back to Druid Hill Park. We're also looking at emphasizing African American vendors that are here in the city. I think that if you've been to the Heritage Festival, they've been able to attract people from all around the region and other states. We want to make sure that we're emphasizing the many African American restaurants, the talent that exists in the city, even the museums that people don't even know about. So we'll be showcasing Baltimore's African American community during that period.
When you have gotten all these resources and have to go through all this to fund these programs, but then you wake up and read about a police lieutenant who doesn't even show up for work, takes overtime from the city, lives in Worcester County. Even after the investigation of the other officers, doesn't that give you pause about police, or how do you feel about that?
Well, if we could mandate that every police officer lives in the city, the cities across the country have been sued for that. I know that at one time in Philadelphia, if you were a teacher, a police officer, or a firefighter, you lived in the city. I emphasize that I need people to live in the city. I do my best not to hire folks unless they live in the city. Even if I hire you and you coming in town, you're moving into this city. And that's why we're now getting ready to audit the police department in terms of their overtime. And you'll hear more about that moving forward. I think for anybody, it's a pause and it's a concern. As a citizen, as the mayor of the city, as a leader in this community, I think we all are pausing for concern. But, what people want are results. And that's why when the Bloomberg team comes in, and I hope that everybody's in place before the end of this month, that is our focus on how do we, change the cultural behavior that exists in the police department? How do we get better relationships between the police and the community? And more importantly, how do we get this crime problem down? The other thing that really concerns me about the crime problem, and I think you all have seen it, is the number of young people who are engaged in criminal activity. 13, 14, 15-year-olds, with fake guns and all of this stuff that just makes no sense. And it makes us think about not only the need for a curfew, but people should be asking, where are your children? Where are my children? What activities are they engaged in? And that's why these after-school programs are important. My conversation with the CEO of the school system has been around, we know that there's a certain percentage of our children who graduate and they're going to college, so they're going to be working towards going to college this summer. Then there's that percentage that we know they're automatically going to work. But there's about 2,000 at least that we don't know where they're going. And so that's why we're still raising money to make sure that those young people are working this summer. And I recently raised another $75,000 for young people. People concerned about the squeegee kids on the corner. And I said, well, you know what? That's an entrepreneurial spirit. Let's see if we can get them engaged in some type of activity that they start their little businesses, pop-up shops this summer, or car washes, or whatever. But let's work with them so that they are in a place that's safe and that they can exercise their skills.
You raised $75K for what specifically?
For entrepreneurship opportunities for young people. I think it is tomorrow or June the 10th, we have a call to action, and the young people will be auditioning to start businesses this summer.
Madam Mayor, I know heading into the real estate conference in Vegas, that retailing was going to be a big point of focus for you. Can you talk about some of the conversations that you had with folks out there?
Absolutely.
And what you were trying to push?
Absolutely. There's an article, I hope that everybody gets a copy of it, the ICSC wrote on a standing room crowd only, I think between some people say 300 plus, some people tell me it was around 700 folks who attended. I was the only mayor, at least in that particular meeting, who got to speak on the needs to invest in urban cities, and Baltimore being highlighted in that particular discussion. It was myself and one of the real estate folks who talks about the need to invest in urban environments. We did get a hit, I guess I can call it a hit, from one of Ireland's top, it's an international food market chain that's looking at investing in at least 5 supermarkets in the Baltimore community. Every hour on the hour, I can tell you from the time I got off the plane until an hour and a half before I got back on the plane, I was in meetings with it's called Lido. Lido is the name of the supermarket chain. Between Lido, and at the last minute, and I said, you all know I got to catch a plane, there was a company that's interested in coming into Baltimore. This whole movie experience is changing. And I don't know if you all have had the opportunity to go to the 41st Street movie bistro. It is outpacing most of them in the country. It is doing really well. So now other movie companies are looking at us. There's another type of movie theater place where you come in and you engage in all kinds of activities. So they're looking at trying to come to Baltimore. So everything from food markets to retail establishments, for getting an opportunity to speak before a crowd of 300 or 700, whatever that number was, I think bode well for Baltimore. Very exciting.
So on the topic of grocery stores, you've talked about it at these press conferences before about there being a lot of food deserts in the city still. What do you think has led up to there being this need for so many grocery stores in the city?
Well, I mean, there was a time when, what was it, Stop, Shop, and Save, Super Pride, when big supermarkets moved out, these black-owned supermarkets filled in, and obviously were not able to keep pace with the marketplace. But what has happened is, and it's interesting because some footprints are very large, like the #1 food chain in America requires 120,000 square feet and 800 parking spaces. You know, only place I know, and I mentioned it to them, only place I know is over there by Wabash Avenue, the old Kmart shopping center. That would be a possibility. But what is happening now with the food market chains, and I've said this when I was speaking, is that the projection is over the next 20 years that 70% of the population is going to be living in cities. So supermarkets are starting to change, you know, what they look like. And our Whole Foods is unusual. What's happening downtown, like they're going from 25,000 to 40,000 square feet, where now you see most supermarkets, we call them boutique supermarkets, at 25,000 square feet and 35 being around the average. So I think what you'll see is a changing, why you'll see a Nordstrom's now coming up on 4th Avenue, Nordstrom's Rack, because people are changing what that retail model looks like to compete with online shopping. When I think about the new Saks, I don't know if anybody's had a chance to visit in New York, but what a difference, you did, I'm sorry. I was there for a conference. But the footprint of the new Saks is very different from what it was 10, 15 years ago. And so I think you're going to see those changes, which I think bode well for the city. I also talked to the owners or the operators of the Mondawmin Shopping Center. I said, I mean, how many retail stores do we need at Mondawmin? We got one sit-down restaurant, we could use 2, but we could also use a movie theater or a bowling alley. So they said they'll take a look at it. Didn't sound real upbeat, but hopefully they'll take a look at it.
Madam Mayor, Gary Brown Jr. was found guilty of violating election law. What was your reaction to that, and why keep him on your staff? Well,
let me just say that he is under legal advice, and as far as I'm concerned, I've not read the transcripts. I don't know all the particulars. I wasn't in court, but the Gary Brown that I know has been a good employee for years. He's not engaged in any campaign at all. I think that we will wait and see. I've not had a conversation with him since.
So you stand by him?
Oh, I do, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there's this question about where did he get the $18,000?
Yeah, that's, again, I was not.
Have you looked into that at all?
No, have not.
Well, Madam Mayor, with this guilty finding, what does that say about the way your campaign complied with election law?
Well, as far as I know, that the campaign complied with election laws. I'm sure that, there are many questions that as it relates to the campaign. But, that's a personnel matter as it relates to Gary Brown, and so we'll take a look at it.
Next question.
Mayor, on Sunday, we had published an article in the Sun about churches who've been kind of swept up in the tax sale process. And we've gotten a lot of reaction from people in the community who feel sympathetic to the churches and the discussion around whether the water billing system has integrity enough to have this really aggressive, method for taking people's property. What problems do you see associated with water billing and the tax sale process?
Well, I can tell you we've gotten enough complaints around the tax sale and then a lack of understanding of the entire tax sale process. It usually takes about 2 years before property actually ends up in a tax sale. The problem is the cost of restoration, at 18%, which I know is something that the council is looking at as well. We're also looking at a fund that we can assist some folks to keep them out of the tax sale. We've gotten some donations from private folks to assist folks to keep them off of the tax rolls. But we're examining our whole water bill system because I've gotten enough complaints now to know that there's something that we need to take a real close dive at.
Is it time to say, let's put the brakes on
Tax
taxes
sale.
associated with water bills, put a moratorium on it?
Well, I'm having conversations with the president of the council now. One of the issues he has is around the percentage, the 18% for recouping. But we don't want people to get so far in arrears that they can't recoup. And so we've got to be careful how we look at this. And so we'll take an in-depth look at the water bill system and how we deal with
But
it.
it seems like at this point in time, you're not convinced that a moratorium on...
I'm not sure that a moratorium is the right approach. I do know that we've got to provide some assistance to folks who need assistance. And, similar to what we do with the utility bills, we have a fund that we assist people who can't afford to pay their utility bills to do that. And we want to be able to make sure that people don't end up out of their homes.
My
That
last
is
question, thank you, is did you have any thoughts specifically about the fact that so many churches get caught up in this process? I mean, there was 57 that were on the tax sale list this year, and there's this California investor who now is foreclosing on 6.
Well, I think, again, it's something that we need to take a close look at. Thank you all.